Justin Tucker has done it for Baltimore.
This is Nothing But That Sports Talk.
And welcome to another episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside my very special guest at this time. Let us everybody know who you are.
Hey everybody, I'm Karlie Smith. Rafique, thanks for having me on.
And I really appreciate you coming on after I met you at Join the Table panel that Ari managed to be a part of. And I understand you got a lot of other special guests involved throughout the year, including like many different sports analysts or sports pioneers or anybody involved with the sports and entertainment industry. Like, what went through your mind putting all that together throughout 2020?
Well, I have to give almost all the credit to Christina Hovasat, the founder of A Seat at the Table. She's a community relations manager for the NFL. But this is sort of, I guess, her passion project, or what she believes the purpose to her role in the league is to truly create an environment, a table for women in sports and entertainment that's not only an area for growth to take place, but also mentorship. And, you know, we've got some exciting stuff planned, but I think it's been really, really wonderful to see a group of women who all have different backgrounds, different walks of life, and different roles in the sports and entertainment industry come together to form a table that is for others. And so I think my biggest takeaway so far is we continue to use our gifts and our talents to better and improve the industry for others. And so that's been kind of the basis of the table so far, and it's growing because everybody has a seat at the table, truly.
Yeah, and I'm also glad to actually take part of it, especially when you have my special guest, Ariel Thomas, who, like I mentioned, not too long ago, she was one of my first few special guests on this podcast turned media outlet. Like, just hearing her story again, even after I heard it through several other interviews that she's been a part of, the fact that watching other women hear about her story and get motivation from her is really inspiring.
It was so inspiring, and Ari was terrific. I loved having her on. Her energy and her authenticity just to be herself was really empowering, right, and admirable. And I think a lot of people can relate to her because she started off with having to seriously, like she talked about on the call, remember, Rafique, you know, sleeping on people's couches and not knowing when that next meal is going to come, but she was there, she was at the game. And so I think that it just hearing that she has worked her way up and that effort pays off was really, really inspiring.
And it also tells you that it's never too late to start journalism.
Right.
It's never too late or never too early to start getting to the field of journalism. And look where she's at right now. Bleacher Report, 30 for 30. You could be 30 for 32 if you ever put your mind to it.
Well, you know, and I let God take care of it. But I think at the end of the day, when we are who we were created to be, we're walking out, you know, our gifts and our talents, no matter what the role is. And no matter what your age is, right? If in our day-to-day, if we stay true to who we are and we are constantly, you know, honing in on our gifts and talents, then we're going to end up where we're supposed to be.
And that's what I'm talking about. Speaking of where you're supposed to be, like, why don't we break it down your career a little bit? Like, tell me a little bit about what you do outside Join the Table.
Sure. So I'm in Athens, Georgia right now. Have you ever been to Georgia? Where do you live? Where are you from?
I'm based in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh,
I've never been into Georgia before.
I just flew in from New York. Okay. So right now, obviously with my role with the NFL, it's a lot of traveling and working from city to city, stadium to stadium, but I'm based out of Athens, Georgia, because after graduating from college, I went to ECU, East Carolina University, didn't get a job right away, was working with kind of the marketing and media outlet with the University of Georgia for a little bit before I got a job with the Georgia Athletics Department. So I became a digital production assistant. And with that, I was able to freelance with the SEC Digital Network with a lot of women's sports, which I still do that. I'm very lucky to still have that outlet of analysis work. But so that brought me to Athens, Georgia. And I've always just freelanced with Fox Sports as well, in addition to my assistantship here with the athletics department. And I kind of call myself a utility player because when my name's called, I just would like to, you know, do the job, do whatever it takes to kind of get off the bench and put my spot in the real world, right, of sports and entertainment. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I just, you know, I graduated from college in 2018, went to the University of Georgia right after, picked up my career there, and have been freelancing with Fox Sports throughout, which kind of has weaved me into the role that I'm currently in right now. So that's about it. outside of the table, you know, it's a lot of different, I have my own podcast. It's a lot of just flexing those different muscles, whether it's in the operations realm or the broadcast realm or the leadership realm, whatever the case is. It's not only the job title, but it's just what you do in the day to day.
What are some of the difficult challenges that you face going through those jobs?
Let's see. I think that we all can agree the year 2020 has had some tough challenges, right? And so being in the sports and entertainment industry, I think this year more than ever has been the uncertainty factor that we all have faced when, you know, the next paycheck, the next role, having a position, it's not set in stone. Nothing is, right? So I think it's kind of woken me up personally to the fact that none of this is guaranteed. And so what do you put your faith in? What is your main purpose at the end of the day? Because the job title's not always going to be there. And I think being in the sports and entertainment industry, it's so important to have each other because it is, you know, I graduated college, didn't have a job right away. The job market is very competitive and saturated. So that next job is not always guaranteed, or you don't always have X, Y, and Z lined up for you. So I think it takes a lot of faith. And I think that would be the biggest challenge that I've faced so far, is not knowing what's next. Like the horizon for me is empty because I have no idea, you know, what is there, but it just takes faith in walking out, you know, your passion basically to get to that next step. And so I think that's been interesting. And then also just kind of not knowing what's next and not knowing what's out there. I think there's so many roles that I have yet to even learn about. So a lot of the times it just took me actually participating in doing a role to learn what was needed to take that role head on, right? It's not something that you can learn about in a class. You just have to learn by doing, and you know better once you're there.
And that's what it's all about. And what I've been doing, I'm just learning it all on my own. Like throughout this year, I've been doing nothing but my sports podcast and stuff because I graduated from college in 2018, and I pretty much already told you the colleges that I went to and graduated from like, well, and yeah, my most recent degree was in 2019. I spent like literally over a year trying to build my craft since the job wasn't there for me right away, or even when I was, just couldn't really get the job at that point. So yeah, interviewing people like you throughout 2020, virtually through Zoom calls, or whether it's on IGTV, it's really gonna get my foot in the door.
Absolutely. And you're practicing, you're going through the steps regardless of whether or not you're getting paid for it, which again, I love to see it. I love doing podcasts like this. I have one of my own, and it really is, it's great reps, right? And it allows you to fail. And sometimes I think that's another issue for me, is I like to be perfect across the board, but I have to fail to get better, right? Failure is just opening a new window for basically increased talent, you know, and increased opportunity to get better. So I think that's another thing too, is when we have these practice reps, we can not get comfortable with failure, but learn to move on and not dwell on it so much.
And it's also a great way to networking, because Monica McNutt mentioned in an older interview over a year ago that people tend to try and network up when they're supposed to be networking around people. And that's exactly what you're doing with the Join the Table segments that you guys do. It's a lot to take care of. Like, what are some of your favorite coverage that you ever done when working for Georgia Athletics?
Favorite coverage? That's a tough question, because I really do find joy, I think, in the day to day. And you're right. Back on that note of a seat at the table, networking, Christina says this all the time. It's about being intentional, right? So if you're intentional with the people that you meet, that you surround with, that you can love and serve others, you're going to get where you need to be as well too. But okay, so coverage at the University of Georgia, it's been cool because while I've been here, the football team has, you know, obviously been very highly ranked. So whether it's, you know, competing for national championship or the SEC championship game or whatever bowl game they're in, it's been fun to work the SEC network broadcasts that always come into town, or whether it's college game day and you've got Maria Taylor, former dog, you know, on the sidelines doing the games. Whatever is at the University of Georgia has been so much fun to cover. We've had college game day come into town multiple times. But also I think for me personally, I love women's sports as well too. Our softball team is super competitive, gymnastics. I mean, you name it, Georgia Athletics is on fire. And so for me, just being able to be in the booth or to be able to talk about the game, or maybe be on the sideline and interview the alumni that come back, you know, Nick Chubb, Sony Michelle, people who are coming back to these games and have played such a role in Georgia Athletics. I think that for me has been the most rewarding.
And that's what happens when you going to school in like one of the top schools in the United States of America. I mean, yeah, I meant to say the other way around, but you know what?
Yeah.
What it's all about. When you go into
Right.
a big college, like in the SEC conference, you're bound for success, or at least you're in a position to be bound for success. But
I know, yes.
since we're talking SEC, what are your thoughts about a certain kicker from Vanderbilt being the first woman to play in a Power 5 conference?
I know. No, it's incredible. And Vanderbilt's had their fair share of issues these past couple of weeks, just with, increased COVID changes, and then Derek Mason, kind of losing that head spot. But I really think it was phenomenal to see a woman step into a role that she was completely capable for and then perform, right? I just, saw an ESPN notification she scored the other day, but I think it's wonderful. And I think that over quarantine, for sure, over the year 2020, women's role in sports has been put on display. And I think, as females, we know it's always there, right? But to see media attention and to see, the world of sports kind of surrounding women and empowering women is incredible. And then it opens the door for opportunities like that, to have a kicker, as a woman on a primarily manned sport or team. So I don't think she's going to be the last, to say the least.
She's never going to be the last, because this opens the door for more women to get hit with the head that you can do anything you want if you set your mind to it. And that's exactly what you're doing right now, working for Georgia. Now, why don't you talk about like the living conditions of living in Athens, Georgia? Like, what's it like growing up?
Sure. Yeah. So, and actually, I stepped back from the University of Georgia to take on a role with Fox Sports for the NFL season. So, like I said, I'm mostly traveling right now in this season of life, but I do come back to Athens about 2 days a week, and I love it. I think I was driving around the other day and I was like looking at people's Christmas lights, and I was like, this is such a cool place, because you've got, college students, of course, going to the university, but you really have a community that is strong and supportive of the kind of environment that it is currently, which is a wonderful SEC school, So it's been fun for me to live here. I think that the commute from Athens to Atlanta is nothing crazy, so I'm able to go and get the city if I want. And then, you've got a huge Atlanta airport, Delta hub, so I can fly back home if I need to. I can fly anywhere in the country. So yeah, it's been a blessing to live here.
Yes, it really is. And I understand that the other day you was working the Giants and the Arizona Cardinals, and you literally saw the Giants meltdown game winning streak. But you know what? What's it like working at that game?
What did I like?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always fun to watch Kyler Murray. I think, his quickness and his speed, and just to see him, stepping foot into the NFL and then having an offense that is able to produce it's pretty fun to watch. I liked watching him at Oklahoma. So that was, a lot of fun to get to see him play. And then you also have, a younger quarterback, Daniel Jones, played at Duke, and to see these guys, move on to the next level and perform and take on that starting position is definitely something that I just love to watch. I think, the game itself, again, I don't know, are you a Giants fan?
Yes, I am a Giants fan.
Oh, okay. So, it wasn't the best game from your standpoint, but no, it's fun. And I mean, I think I'm going to, where am I going this week? To the Washington Giants game. So maybe that'll be more competitive.
Washington Giants game?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That should be interesting.
Yeah. NFC East, we'll see.
And yeah, what are your impressions about the NFL season?
What is there to say? I think coming into the NFL season, we all knew it was going to be kind of funky, right? From the get-go, you had Tom going to Tampa, you had Cam going to New England, Gronk coming out of retirement, right? You had so many different trials and triumphs. Honestly, on a more serious note, you've got Ron Rivera for Washington, coaching from the sidelines, battling cancer. Like, there's so much that has happened. Dak Prescott goes down with potentially career-ending injury, right? There's so many things that have happened that not only players have overcome, but I think we're all on this roller coaster ride. And there's so much that happens leading up to game day that it goes on behind the scenes that's not even seen. I mean, players are literally wearing these proximity recording devices that will help decrease the spread of COVID-19, but increase the method of contact tracing. And then you've got different levels, and you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, different tiers that can't come in contact with each other, right? Because you just, again, don't want to spread this virus. And so I think that there's been so much protocol implemented this season that getting to game day, whether that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like Thursday, whatever the day is, because of these cancellations and readjustments, it's really miracle after miracle each week that, you know, the NFL season is played. And I've been so thankful to be a part of it. But it's been an interesting one, to say the least, Rafique.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially after you witnessed one of the craziest Monday Night Football games ever between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. There's a reason why I put highlights from that game onto the intro for this episode, because come on now, this game was freaking amazing. Like, I'm seeing that.
Yeah, I'm a huge Justin Tucker fan, and for him to nail a 55-yarder with 2 seconds left was, exhilarating. But, you know, you've got basically just the ups and downs, right? Both teams played ball, to say the least. I think that's probably one of the most competitive games we've seen this year. And it'll be interesting to see come postseason, you know, which of those teams kind of advances. But yeah, that was fun. That was a great Monday night game, huh?
Exactly. It's so much back and forth. I mean, you had the Browns coming back from 15 points down to take a brief lead, only for Baltimore Ravens to spark back, and the Browns bounce back. And yeah, you know what? It's obviously a lot better than the Ravens and Browns game like 5 or 6 years ago when the Ravens won on a blocked field goal. That was just so ridiculous.
And I'm pretty sure, too, I was looking at the Ravens schedule earlier because, again, I was like, this is an impressive game. Beginning of the season, they blew the Browns out. So for that to be, you know, just a competitive game like it was last night just shows kind of how things can progress from the start to finish of the season.
And you know what? Even with losses like this, you got to give credit where credit's due to the Cleveland Browns. They definitely improved a lot.
Absolutely.
They're in the midst of their first winning season in like nearly a decade and a half, and they could be back in the playoffs, but when they do get into the playoffs, do you see them having a deep run at it?
Yeah, I was, it's funny because every day I'll always check my email, and in my email is the ESPN Daily. And so I was reading through everything that obviously comes up on my page. And they were like, you know, we're not a huge fan of participation trophies, but Cleveland Browns probably deserve one for Monday Night Football. So that was definitely funny. But I think if that's a taste of what's to come in the postseason, then we're in for a fun ride.
Yes, we are. We're also in for possibly the Cleveland Browns take out the New York Giants. So, like,
there you go, Rafique. There you go.
Actually, defeating one of those two teams after what we saw on Monday Night Football when they scored like at least 42 points off of each other.
I know. No, it was a really fun game. And, you know, I think, too, we've got a few teams that have already clinched playoff spots or division titles, but it's kind of up for grabs. You know, you've got the Buffalo Bills who are leading their division and stuff like that you would never have seen coming prior to this year.
If Tom Brady was on the Patriots, you would have never seen all this coming.
I know. If we had that little bit of normalcy with us, then not even that, right?
Exactly. But after what you saw for the Giants, do you see them getting back on track and winning the NFC East?
I'm still going to pull for Washington here. I think, you know, upsetting the Pittsburgh Steelers after their 12-0 run was definitely a little bit of an adrenaline kick as the season goes on. So I'm going to say they're not going to take, you know, the title, but they're definitely still in contention.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. But if something else in it today, Cleveland would definitely be in it. Washington would definitely be in it. Assuming the Washington football team do hold on and clinch the NFC East, do you see them win at least one playoff game? Coming off
talking Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Honestly, I'm a huge fan. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but Ron Rivera, he's got that good juju, right? He's going through it right now. He's battling cancer. And so I think, again, miracle after miracle has happened. So there's no limit to, I think, what they can accomplish this year, especially being, in that underdog position.
And that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, what are your impressions about, like, when you look back at your career, like, what are your impressions about the progress you made from day one of what you've been doing up until this point? Do you feel there's anything you need to improve on?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. And I think for me, it's coming with the fact that I'm okay to fail, right? I'm okay to, trip up on my words every so often, or it's okay for me to have to do better and learn how to do better and seek advice on how to, do X, Y, and Z in my career. But I think also it's been from role to role, position to position, whatever muscle I'm flexing, whether it's in an operations role or an analyst role, there's obviously a lot of preparation that goes into it. And I think it's so important to trust your preparation. But at the end of the day, you showing up as you being Rafique on, this podcast, or me showing up as Karlie Smith to whatever role I'm playing, that's the magic, right? That's the purpose of us being there. I'm actually right now, currently in this phase of life, I'm kind of seeking that next step, which I think we all can agree on, that never ends. But I just, I was talking to the Lord the other day and I said, God, I can't wait for this next job that you've positioned for me. I can't wait to see what that is, because I think, we all have sort of a job that's waiting for us just to take on, but just showing up as ourselves, that's kind of the trick, that's the ticket in the door. And that's what's really going to impact a lot of people. And I think that's why I love being in sports as well too, because you get this platform, you get this realm of sports where people all come together, right? It's exciting and sometimes it's heartbreaking, but you all come together for this cause, and it's to see obviously good competition, but just to hear the stories that go on behind the scenes as well too. And it's definitely a bonding factor, I think, for our country. And so I've been thankful to be a part of it. At the end of the day, just coming in with an attitude of thankfulness and gratitude is really, I think, what keeps you going in the industry. But things that I need to work on every single day, there is something that I can get better at. So to even put into words, I think we'd be on here for another hour. But no, I think just continuing to walk and be comfortable in who I am and confident in who I am, and to trust my preparation, but know that at the end of the day, who you are is enough.
And that's what's going to take in order to have success in life. Now, getting back to the discussion about joining the table, like, what are some of your top 2 or top 3 favorite guests that you've had throughout the year since you started?
Wow. Okay, so every month we have on a special guest. I would say Asani Swan was someone who really stuck out to me. She works with Carmelo Anthony, and she is actually starting a new kind of foundation, I guess you could say. It's called I Am Wholehearted. I don't know if you've heard of that as well, Rafique, but it's she coming on the table was something that not only opened my eyes to the opportunity that's out there in the sports and entertainment realm, but just her attitude of, what's for you is for you type of approach. And also, she just had such a wholesome attitude and way of going about things that I look up to all the time. And, being a part of her I'm Wholehearted calls, where we just talk about our heart and where we're at, right? And take time to rest and take time to take a deep breath and just breathe life into one another. She really made a huge impact on me and continues to do so. Let's see, tonight, actually, we've got Dale Moss on the call, who is big into the philanthropic world, also does a lot of modeling and hosting. And so he's going to be a really interesting person. We've had Anitan Barriola, who wrote a book on, it's called Gentlewoman. I'm actually reading that right now. And it's being, a lady and how we can wear our crown, right? And straighten our crown and be confident in who we are and what we bring to the world. So I think, a lot of people have been on the calls month to month that have spoken so much life. Ari, again, that's where we were able to meet on the call. She brought in so much energy and positivity and realness to the call. And that's something I walked away with is, what you bring, that's your special juice, right? That is what you get to offer to the world. And it's truly an offering. So yeah, I can't pinpoint one person in particular who is incredible, but month to month, we just keep having amazing people at the table. And I think what makes the table too is not only our guest speakers, but the women who show up and the men who show up week to week, day to day, month to month, and participate in this intimate table talk.
And that's what I'm talking about. I don't care if I'm the only male coming in because
and that's what I'm talking about.
I like meeting a lot of interesting people who just join the table, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. Like, assuming when everything gets back to normal and you're allowed to do these stuff in person, like, what are your plans for any in-person join the table stuff?
Oh my gosh, I think we have to do it, right? I was just thinking about the other day, I'm like, we've had Zoom call after Zoom call, which has been phenomenal, obviously in a global pandemic, but I just cannot wait for the day that the table is reunited in person and new people can come and we can actually have an in-person table. I think that's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
That is what I'm talking about. We go out to wrap up this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you for stopping by, Karlie Smith, and continue to do what you do. Stay positive, and to all the big balls out there, stay safe and get your head in the game.
Stay safe. Thank you so much, Rafique. It's been so much fun talking to you. Stay safe. Be blessed.
You too.